Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Thanks a lot for being with us. We appreciate you as always. Powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door. On the program today, Tyler Harris, the executive director of Hoosiers for Good, joins us. The NIL Collective for Indiana. Zach Osterman, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload as well. All kinds of different things to get to. Indiana women with a gigantic win for them last night at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Is they don't just beat, they beat down Iowa pretty good. The number 4 Hawkeyes and Caitlin Clark. We'll talk about that. Some other issues. The NCAA Committee on Infractions exploring changes to possibly penalizing athletics directors and presidents in addition to others, instead of just coaches and players. How are you doing? It is time for the weekend, so appreciate you being with us. Mike Shenanigans on board the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Everyone else, Fred, Brian, Kevin down in Jeffersonville, Larry, Las Vegas. Larry says, good morning from Anna Maria Island. Hello. Snuck that one in on me. So, home of the ugly grouper. Asked for Thad. Tell him I said hello. And have a grouper sandwich or something delicious. Everybody else hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. Appreciate you. You can do so via YouTube. Of course, you can make sure you hit that subscribe button when you do that. Dwayne, jumping on. Pacers, get things rolling. As we talked about, getting on the back half of the All-Star, about the last quarter of the season left, so a good start for them. Dwayne says he wishes the men would play as well as the women do for Indiana. Fred pointing out Trace Jackson Davis, 17 points and 5 boards with 2 blocks last night in a win over the Lakers. Shafino with Jalen Hood-Shafino had 4 points and 1 rebound. His 2 Hoosiers in that game last night. Dr. Drew says, yeah, I think Terry Morin is a hell of a coach. Hello, good morning to Emma777. Appreciate you. She said she wishes she was at the women's game last night. Very physical game. It certainly was. I think that's what it takes to beat Caitlin Clark and that crew. Very, very good team. They're very good. Ty is on from Plainfield. He was at the game last night. Says it was an electric environment. They played tremendous defense, which they absolutely did against Clark, and taking the rest of the team out of that game. We will talk about that. Carl's on as well. I'm sure he was at the game. Robert says it'll be interesting to see how the NIL donors feel about the IU women's or IU men's basketball and yada yada. Dave is on from Dagonia Springs, Indiana. I'm going to tell you, that's a new one on me. I do not know where that is. I've never even heard of that one. So thank you, and thank you for the education, because now I'm going to have to look that up. But yeah, it was an electric environment in the Simon Scott Assembly Hall last night as the Indiana women's team welcomed in the number 4 Iowa Hawkeyes and Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark was pretty much Caitlin Clark in the first half. I think she had 20 points in that first half. Second half, not so much for her, as I think she scored a total of 4 points in the entire second half. That credit goes to Indiana's defense combination. But Sarah Scalia she's a badass. Well, as Caitlin Clark is, don't get me wrong, but Sarah Scalia, man, she lit it up last night. 25 points, 7 of 14 overall, 3 of 8 behind the arc, 8 of 8 at the free throw line, along with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. That's a hell of a game. Congratulations to her. She was fun to watch. I mean, Caitlin Clark and Sarah Scalia both had to work their ass off to get shots off. Moving without the ball. It was fun to watch that. It was fun to watch that environment. Sadly, from what you're accustomed to seeing from the men's program in days gone by, and I'm sure fans would like to see that back. Well, I know that they'd like to see it back. What am I saying? But this is about the hell of a game last night. Gets a lot of attention for Indiana. And more importantly for them and the NCAA tournament, they, coming off that loss against Illinois, they were probably going to possibly drop out of that top 16, which takes away the hosting for NCAA. Well, this will, without question, give them a gigantic boost because they didn't win by a point or two. This was a dominant, no doubter. Iowa gave them a good run, but Indiana outscores Iowa 24-15 in the fourth quarter. And that was pretty much the difference there. It was a good game up till that. Indiana had a halftime lead, I think, of a few points, but they really put the finishing touches on there at the end. But yeah, it was just fun to watch because it was enjoyable to watch to not have to work on it so much. So I enjoyed getting to just watch a game and not be worried about covering it. But we'll hear from Lisa Bluter. As a matter of fact, I guess no better time than now, John, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but my washing machine sounds like it's about to take off into space. Can you hear that in the background?
Not really, and thank goodness. That was not what I was expecting to hear.
Well, it's just it's the noise began right as you mentioned bringing in the Lisa Bluter and Caitlin Clark sound, and I don't know, it just felt like I thought something was going to happen. Anyway, yeah. Speaking of that sound, I do have it for you as you mentioned. We'll go ahead and play her thoughts on Indiana's win over her team last night.
Congratulations to Indiana. They played a great game. They had a great game plan. I think it frustrated Caitlin at times. We didn't have an answer for Sarah Scalia. She was really good tonight. She was really good, and give her credit. She played really well today, but. We didn't play very well tonight, but again, I want to give all the credit to Indiana. I thought they played a great game.
Coach, this is the same defense you faced against them the last night?
No.
Caitlin, very rare that you have a game like this. What is it that Indiana did so well, especially in that second half?
I think being physical, face guarding me, denying the ball, threw a lot of different people at me. But just very physical. I think that was the main thing, and kind of pushed me off my spots, got me out a little deeper than I wanted to be, and threw a little box and one at us. Other than that, played mostly man-to-man, but I'd say just physicality and denying me the ball.
There you go. There is Lisa Bluter and Caitlin Clark from Iowa talking about last night's game. And Mackenzie Holmes, 24 points on 11 of 16 shooting, 2 of 2 at the free throw line, 9 boards for her on the night. is Indiana, the inside-outside combo, too much to overcome for the number 4 Iowa Hawkeyes. So great win for them. Incredible, as they had not beaten the biggest challenges they had faced this year in Ohio State and Stanford and Iowa. They had come up short. So great to see them with that big-time win as they head in, get closer to NCAA play. That will no doubt be a boost for them. So looking forward to that, and congratulations to them on that. Illinois, on the men's side, loses at Penn State on Wednesday night. There was a couple of games on Wednesday night that Illinois was up by 7 with 36 seconds to go. And this was when the Indiana men's game was about to start. And so I put it away, and I was beyond shocked to see that they lost that game, because they had put themselves in a position to challenge Purdue for the Big Ten title. They have a game coming up with Purdue, and Purdue had, coming off of that loss at Ohio State, had gotten within a game, and boy, you talk about letting something slip away. That did just that on that night. Kentucky, they lose on a last-second shot after leading by 15 in the second half, and Florida loses to Alabama in overtime, as Bama might be my dark horse team to win the national championship. They're just one of those sneaky teams, but lots to get to today. Tyler Harris joining us from the Hoosiers for Good, Indiana NIL Collective. Looking forward to talking to him about what's going on with those guys. They've got a new vodka out, I think you might have seen, which is ironic that now, back in the day, it wasn't that long ago, alcohol was just such a forbidden thing to talk about. And now it is every bit as part of collegiate athletics as gambling. And so it's just irony that both of those, it just shows you, man, it's all about the money. All about the money. Finding out where, what was the name of that? Dagonia Springs? He just gave us the answer. Daggone it. Yeah. Dagonia Springs, Indiana is 20 miles east of Evansville, just outside of Boonville. I know where both of those are, of course. We're grateful for all the peeps that listen on 97.7 ESPN The Ref down in Evansville. But I'd never heard of Dagonia Springs, but now I have, and always will, David. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio, including Tyler Harris. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us later as well. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload as we get ready to head into the weekend. Lots more coming up. Brought to you by our good friends at Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Ball Road. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
So he's coming on this segment, correct? Okay, just wanted to make sure, because I've got the liner for their organization. I just wanted to make sure that I had it ready. Good morning, Tyler.
What do you know today?
Do what?
What do you know today?
What do I know today? I know that it's Friday, February 23rd. And that might be the extent of my knowledge for the day so far.
Yeah, I hear you. That's pretty much about where I'm at on this trip.
Jim stepped out to get some coffee. He'll be back in just about a minute or so.
Okay. You guys been staying busy?
Oh yeah, this is without a doubt our busiest time of the year.
Yeah.
But only about a month or so left.
Then you can take a break for a minute.
Yeah, things slow down, and I mean, honestly, after a while, it does make doing the show a little more difficult, just because there's less things. You kind of have to you almost have to manufacture content more so than whenever things are actually going on.
Right.
But in terms of like all the extracurriculars, like things that don't pertain to the live show, like going to the games. So that's what Jim does, obviously, but him do the post game shows, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really slows down.
Yeah, that's nice.
Tyler Harris.
Hey, Jim.
How are you, my friend? How are you doing?
Well, if I complained, nobody'd listen anyway. So,
man, you're stealing my lines.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. For too
Thank
long.
you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
I'm ready. I'm ready to golf.
I don't know if it was a dream or what. I thought I woke up the other night. I hurt my knee last year, and so I haven't played since October, but I think I woke up in the middle of the night and then my knee was killing me and I couldn't hardly move, but I don't know if it was a dream or not. I was like, oh.
All right, here we go, guys.
Oh, or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosiers for Good. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. It is time for the weekend. Joining us now from HoosiersConnect.com and Hoosiers for Good, the executive director, Tyler Harris. Of course, Colin Hartman, the vice president there with Hoosiers Connect. You guys got a lot going on, but how have you been, man?
Good. It was awesome to see the ladies stomp Iowa last night. That was fun to watch. But work-wise, it's going good. Staying busy.
Yeah, busy night at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall, man. It was an electric environment and just fun to see everybody celebrating. But a big-time game, a lot of attention focused on there in Bloomington last night from around the country. The game on Peacock and people watching that, of course. Caitlin Clark draws a lot of attention, but especially when she gets shut down and beat.
Yeah, we forced her to take a lot of shots, and she wasn't hitting them at a high clip. So that's a good recipe when you're playing them.
Great defense makes a difference, and you can see. I mean, whether it was Chloe Moore, McNeil, or whomever, they were covering her like a blanket, man.
Yeah, no, it was a great win for the women's program. It was awesome atmosphere, and I'm just happy for Terry and the women's basketball team. I mean, that they've come a long way over these past several years. It's just awesome to see them continue that competitiveness that they've got and that they've become to be known for over the past couple of years.
Absolutely. Indiana's official NIL collective, Hoosiers for Good, and this is a year-round job, man. It has become a year-round thing for you guys, something that you have to work on every day, and it is a gigantic part of all athletics, their budget, their athletics programs. It doesn't matter what school you're talking about. It has become one of the most important parts of each school program's athletics departments.
Yeah, it's growing. The attention that NIL is getting is continuously growing, and the factors that athletes looked at when they were determining to go to a school, stay at a school, etc. are all still there like they were in the past. There's just one additional component that may be at the highest, at the top of the list, which is what are my NIL opportunities at that school. So they still care about the academics, they still care about the coach and facilities, et cetera. But NIL has become an important factor in where a kid goes, or if they're staying at a school, et cetera.
Yeah, and something that's just from an outside standpoint looking in, it doesn't matter what school, I don't care who you're talking about. I would like to see at some point, which I don't know that it'll ever happen, contracts, because players have gone from being kind of the most suppressed to the least suppressed. They have the most freedom. They can transfer at will. They can do pretty much anything at will, which I'm cool with, except for it really does prevent pro teams can gauge their rosters and all that because they know what they have, what they're going to have. Colleges right now, you got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a simple solution to all of that. The NCAA has decided they do not want to do that right now, and that is, you make student athlete employees, and they can be under contract, and whether that contract's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, there's already a model on campus for student employees, and that corrects all of this easily. But it's not the amateurism model, which everybody has known to love about college athletics, and so I don't know. I mean, if they want to correct the problem, they can. It doesn't seem like the courts are ever really going to be ruling in their favor. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that with the NIL, with the transfer portal, there's a temporary injunction that's in place that allows student athletes to transfer all the time, which isn't good for anybody, I don't think. I don't think it's good for the student either. It just delays graduation. So what do I know?
Well, no, especially because when you're that young, you grab at the brightest star, and the brightest star is not always we learn in life. The brightest star is not always the best thing for you. And I'm with you. I just think that there has to be some kind of control. I'm not saying control like it used to be, but there has to be something there. So I'm assuming are you in favor of some type of student employee type of relationship from your standpoint of what you do for a living? Because I know that would probably be shared by others that are in your similar position.
I don't know if I'm for or against it. I just think it's the reality of where this is going. And the sooner we realize that reality and take steps to get to that point, the better. I don't see the point in delaying the inevitable and fighting this through the court system, continuous lobbying to Congress. To me, that just seems like a lot of wasted money, time, effort, and just get to the model that's going to be coming at some point. And that way, then you can start running athletic departments like businesses, like they have been, but just call it what it is. And again, I think it's better for the students that you can tie them to a school under an employee model and require them to graduate from that school instead of where we're at right now with the transferring 5 times, and whatever you want to.
What would it entail of a student athlete being labeled as a quote unquote employee of a particular school?
Well, there's a lot of probably legal things that I don't know. But there's student workers on campus, right? At every campus across the country. And so there's kind of a model already. You have graduate assistants. And so there's kind of a model there. Now that will bring into the fold maybe unionization or collective bargaining with athletes about their work demands, et cetera. But I think there's a good model in place already that at least allows you to start the discussion and figuring out how it would actually work. If student athletes become employees, I don't think you'd operate under Title IX anymore. You'd operate like all employees, which is Title VII. And so there may be some good, there may be some bad that comes out of it. But it's just kind of where we're going. And so the sooner they can figure this out, I think the better. Because I just really don't think it's great for anybody the way the current model's working.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely, because it cannot be fun for fans because they have no idea, much less the coach, which is even further along. But you have no idea. Indiana fans, for example, they have no idea what their men's basketball team is going to look like next year. Zero, because I have no idea. I don't think Mike Whitson has an idea, because you don't know who might or might not transfer out. There's just so many things that go with that when it's just not, like you said, it's not good for anybody. I don't know who it benefits except maybe individually certain people, but in the long run, I'm not sure that it benefits them in the long run.
No, I agree. And I love the, the college model. There is something to be said about, we're the only country in the world that has this model, and there's something worth preserving, but kind of where we're at right now, I just don't think it's really healthy for the schools, for the athletes, for really anybody. And the sooner they can figure out the best path forward, and control their own destiny as opposed to letting other people control it, probably the better, because they're the ones that are in it day to day, the practitioners of it. And you don't want people who are not in the day to day deciding the fate of college athletics.
Absolutely. I know that you guys have had some or a particular special thing come out here of late. I'm not sure what to call it. It's kind of is that a first in the country? I mean, I obviously don't follow every single NIL from around the United States, but I don't recall seeing anything like this. Is this a first to your knowledge?
There's been some others around the country that have done it. And the difference with us is, we wanted to be different and not just partner with some distillery that had just had vodka ready and rinse and repeat labels and put it out on shelves. That's not what we want to do. We wanted to be different. We wanted to do it with Indiana families, people who care about Indiana, because that tells a better story. It makes it more special. And so earlier this week, we announced the release of Hoosiers Connect vodka, and 25% of the proceeds from that are going to support NIL opportunities to IU athletes. And so we think it's going to be really great. But not a first of its kind, just unique in that it's supported by Indiana families.
And I know that where that will be available and how you can get all that'll be coming out soon. You worked in conjunction with Starlight Distillery, which is in essence the Huber Orchard and Winery folks down in Southern Indiana, down in Starlight, that many of you know from the event that goes on each year there, that has happened for over 30 years down at Starlight. So obviously that was a great partnership and easy to make for you guys.
Yeah. And they're just an unbelievable family. And they care about IU, and they want to help in all their ways. And so we saw this creative opportunity as a way to do that. And we're going to have some more things with them come out in the future, because they care about helping. And I think there was an awesome excitement related to this release that got everybody excited to continue discussing other opportunities in the future with them.
Absolutely. What about working with, I'm looking at one of the comments, which I don't know that this is true. Was Mick Foley really at Simon Scott Assembly Hall last night? Or is that a joke? I
saw a picture of him. So I think he was. I did not end up going. I had my son and daughter's basketball game that I had to go to, but I saw pictures of him floating around social media that he was there.
That's crazy. What the hell is the connection between Mick Foley and Indiana women's basketball or Indiana University, period? I've never heard of one up till now.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just hope he's not an Iowa fan.
Victor Oladipo was in the house. I did see that. So very, very cool to see him out there amongst the crowd. But it's just events like that. How important is that? Because that is such a national audience especially when you do well. But to not just have a game like that, a performance like that, having people there in attendance like that, all of that stuff is free advertising for the school, which in turn I would think you guys would try to use to your benefit as well.
Yeah, we're certainly limited, with the NIL rules that are currently in place on some things, but we have gotten creative to continue to broaden the awareness of our organizations and the way to support. But yeah, make no mistake, last night was a huge win, but huge audience exposure for IU, and effectively, hopefully, trickles down to us. And it's just great to see IU at that stage in women's basketball. They've come so far, and how Terry's just kept them at the top has just been amazing.
9 consecutive 20-win seasons for them. So, yeah, that's a model of consistency as they look to go into yet another NCAA tournament at this year. And right now, tied for, I think, just a game off of Ohio State, which is number 2 in the country, for a second in the Big Ten Conference. So congratulations to them. During the summer, once we get past the things that are going on, you guys kind of go into a different mode. What happens during the off-season time for you guys at Hoosiers for Good?
Well, Jim, I wish there was an off season. It seems like it's always on season.
I know the feeling, brother.
But we go event heavy after school gets out. The athletes have a lot more time, and it just works well because it pairs with a lot of events that we have, and so we'll have again a Huber event down in Southern Indiana at their place, which is just always drawn massive attendance. And then we'll have our golf outing down in French Lick. We're going to have a golf outing down in Evansville. And then we'll have a lot of charity events that these athletes will be at, and continuously promoting their charitable partner. And then the unknown is with this vodka, we're going to do some cool creative events and hopefully something around Little Five in the spring game and some other things throughout the year. But event heavy for sure.
I was talking about the irony of college athletics now, how back it wasn't that long ago that the mere mention of alcohol and gambling or betting and all that stuff was, oh my gosh, it was so can't talk about that. And now it's such an accepted part of the lexicon. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's where we are as a society, right? I tend to think it's similar to NIL. It's early on in NIL or before, no one ever thought that college athletics would be here, and student athletes making money off themselves off the court wasn't really a thought until the reality is the courts force their hands, and it's just become the norm now. And I think it's similar in the alcohol space, for example. Schools started introducing alcohol into the venues, and that's become a driver of revenue for them, and it's
big driver of revenue.
A big driver of revenue, and for us, it's really no different. Just another way to get creative in fundraising, to provide other opportunities. Because you go to a tailgate, people are going to drink regardless, and if they can drink and support the school they care about at the same time, it really seems like a win-win. Obviously, support responsibly, but that's kind of where society is right now.
I just got Pete, a good friend of the show, said that Mick Foley was born in Bloomington.
Wow.
I had no idea. I was this many days old. I was today years old when I found out Mick Foley was born in Bloomington. I know David Lee Roth was born in Bloomington. Just the crazy things that you learn. Mankind may have to get him involved somehow.
Yeah.
The IU wrestling program has gone from not being unmentionable to very uber competitive and probably the toughest wrestling league in the country.
Yeah. Angel's been doing a great job over there. And yeah, they've become to where they're a very, very competitive team now, which is just really exciting. You see baseball this year, you see softball. I mean, we're doing well. We just still got to figure out basketball. Football is, I think, well on their way to being I think they should be really good next year, and I think SIG will do a great job with that program.
I'm glad you brought up football because the level of excitement that I see from a reporter outside looking in, I was like, wow, I've never seen it to this level. I went to school at IU, and I was there during the Bill Mallory era when they were competitive, but the level of excitement is at a level I've never seen. And I know that you guys want to cash in. Shouldn't say cash in on that, but that's something that hasn't happened before. It's something that has to happen though, because football, as we all know, is the engine that drives the financial train in college athletics, and having a solid and competitive football program is of uber importance. How important is it? Have you guys seen that this elevated level of from the fans has that been?
It's been it's the excitement of football since maybe even a little bit before SIG was hired. At least on our end, it's gone through the roof, which has allowed us to really support the football program and SIG and do everything that we can and try to be a component and a supporter of what he wants to do. Right. And so, yeah, it's the from a fundraising standpoint, it's gone through the roof, and it has allowed us to support the program like we never have. And again, we're make no mistake, it's SIG running the show. He's doing all these great things. We just are a very small component of supporting him.
And when you have a program that obviously is getting more support, more fan support, as IU has struggled with that in football, but I think that for one thing, I've never seen a schedule more perfectly set up for a new coach than this upcoming schedule for Kurt Cignetti and Indiana football. How important is that going to be in the efforts of what you guys are doing next year?
Well, I think it's super important for us because what do we got? 8 home games?
Yeah.
I think 8 home games. And so, for us continuing to share our message and getting people aware of what we're doing and how we're supporting the programs, that's tremendous for us, having more home games. Obviously, it's great for the school, and if they're winning and that results in additional ticket sales, food sales, beer sales, etc. And so can be great for the school. And so hopefully they're the schedule, like you mentioned, is lined up perfectly for SIG, and I think he's going to get it done. I really do. But for us, getting awareness out there, if we have 40,000, 50,000 at each home game, and they see what we're doing and the component we play, I think it continues to grow the sport of football at Indiana.
Absolutely. And so what is the next thing on your agenda?
Let's see. We are at February 23rd. We've got we're going to have a class of Hoosiers for Good athletes here soon. And so we're working on that, which will hopefully be announced later this month or early next month, probably early next month. But it'll be our biggest class to date. And then following that, I think we'll start preparing something for spring football game in Little Five, just again, spread awareness about who we are, but then our vodka. And then we'll hit the ground running straight into summer, which will be very busy season as well. But yeah, in the immediate future, rounding out a class on Hoosiers for Good and getting all that squared away to announce here soon.
And where are I know HoosiersConnect.com is one of the places they can go. HoosiersForGood.com is another. Are those the two main sources for those interested parties where to reach out?
Yeah, HoosiersForGood.org, and then HoosiersConnect.com. But yes, and then we've become better on social media and more active, and so we follow us on social media, and we'll keep you up to date on everything that we're doing, because we're starting to do a lot more, and I think some of the things we'll have coming out in the future will be very exciting I'm still working on a few things, but yeah, I think it'll be exciting. So give us a follow and stay up to date on what we're doing.
Absolutely. Tyler Harris from Hoosiers for Good. Can't thank you enough as always, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate all you do. And let me know when you want to get out there and hit the links.
As soon as it warms up, baby. As soon as it warms up. Appreciate you. Tyler Harris from HoosiersForGood.org. Make sure you reach out there if that is where your heart lies. We've got lots more coming up. Zach Osterman will join us from the Indy Star. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload a little bit later as well. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a... Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it, man. Yeah. What do you got going on today? Obviously this, but
just working. That's it.
Good.
Nothing special. How about you?
Well, I got several meetings today, and then it'll slow down around like 3 or 3:30, and then we just bought a new house. Just got the keys to it, so we're gonna go tear up some carpet and do some stuff there.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds busy.
Yeah. It'll be straight to that, and we've got an event this weekend. So we're gonna tear up carpet tonight, tomorrow, and then Sunday, and then people are gonna come in and lay all the flooring on Monday. So quick turnaround.
Perfect. What's the event this weekend?
Oh, it's just a small event we're having at IU. It's it's not something that will be super busy for us, but something that I've got to be at. So it takes away from pulling carpet, I guess.
Takes away from pulling carpet and painting, baby. Painting was the word. It's not painting. It's the masking off that I will never forget. It drove me insane. The amount of masking off I had to do. I'm like, gee whiz, it takes 3 times as long to do that than it does to paint.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. And the house we bought is, it's got a Bloomington address. It's right off 69. But you got to take Fullerton Pike and go by the quarry down there and
turn by the oak tree and go out towards the wire fence and all that good stuff.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of acreage, which is what
nice.
we're looking for. Especially having young kids, getting them outside and playing. So we've been living in a rental right off Walnut for a while. And with little kids right off Walnut, when college kids are out there coming home from the bars, gets a little loud.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready to get out there.
Wouldn't know anything about that.
So.
Well, cool, man. All right. Well, tell Colin I said hello.
Yeah, I will. You have to get him on here soon.
He's a tough man to track down.
You're telling me.
I hear you, buddy. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too, buddy. Have a good one.
All right. 30 seconds.
Nice. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by The Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday. It's time for the weekend. I'm so happy to say those words. Mick Foley, born in Bloomington. I had never heard that. I did not know that. That's kind of crazy. Wild. Let's see. Last night on the college basketball scene, Rutgers traveled to West Lafayette to take on Purdue. We'll talk to Casey Bartley about this later, but Purdue just put the beatdown on Rutgers, are they the number 1 or number 2 defensive team? I think they're the number 2 defensive team in the country. But not much offense. They lose 96-68. They give up 96 points to Purdue after the Boilers bouncing back from that loss over at Ohio State. Also last night, Arizona, number 4 Arizona at home, loses to number 21 Washington State 77-74. Washington State will win the last iteration of the Pac-12 conference. How crazy is that? A little surprising. Washington State 21-6 on the season now, 12-4 overall in the Pac-12, as Arizona leaving for where are they going? The Big 12? Gosh, you need a roadmap. No.
Arizona and Arizona State will be 2 of the schools going to the Big 12 from the Pac-12.
Yeah, they lose at home last night. That's a surprising loss. But hey, that's what college basketball is all about, man. That's what makes it so much fun to watch. And the NCAA tournament coming up soon. Of course, conference tournaments coming up before that. We're not that far away. Saw Bellarmine picking up a win at home. Florida Atlantic, they were in action last night. They dropped out of the top 25. Not listed as such. So they win 80-70 over SMU. Going down through the scores, not a lot of big-time games last night as roll down through there. And, yeah, wow. I'm surprised that the Minnesota gets a home win against the Ohio State team that beat Purdue recently. Minnesota now 8-7 in the Big Ten, 17-9 overall. They're trying to hold on and earn themselves a tournament bid, NCAA tournament bid. Next year, you'll be trying to earn a Big Ten tournament bid because all the teams won't be going. And that's of uber importance. Northwestern beat Michigan last night, 76-62. As they continued on their ride, they're 19-8, 10-6 in the in the Big Ten. What are the current standings right now in the Big Ten? Purdue, of course, at the top, 13-3. Illinois, 2 games behind at 10-5. Northwestern, 10-6. Wisconsin, 10-6. Then you've got Nebraska and Michigan State at 9-7. I still think only 6 teams from the Big Ten get in. Minnesota they're an outlier. They're trying to squeeze in. Overall, right now they're 17-10. No, they're 17-9. My fault. Michigan State is 17-10. I think Michigan State gets in. As a matter of fact, Michigan State, I think, ends up as the last 4 double bye teams. But we'll see. Wisconsin, Nebraska, Michigan State will be fighting for that spot. But one thing that is so glaring, you look at the conference records only away, road records away of those teams, all the way down to third from the bottom, Maryland. Everyone has duplicate wins or more, except for one, and that's Nebraska. And yes, that is the win that they just picked up at Indiana. They are 1-7 on the road in the Big Ten. So their road record is definitely going to hurt them. But I still think that the Big Ten gets 6 teams in, which that's not very good. for a conference that has as many teams as the Big Ten does. It's not good for a conference that is looked upon as one of the best conferences in the country year in, year out. They're not doing a good job of staying up with the times. You look over at the Big 12, they're going to get 10 teams in, probably. Indiana is a program that, to me, leads the group of programs that are stinking up a joint. That has to get their they've got to get their house in order, so to speak. Maryland, you expect more from them than to be a team that is 6-10 in the conference, 14-13 overall. I'm a little surprised because they seem, in the last year or so, they have been kind of on the rise. But they take a punch in the mouth this year. The Big Ten has just got to get its stuff together because they will get passed. Well, hell, they've already been passed as far as the SEC has surpassed the Big Ten in basketball. From an overall standpoint. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload will join us later. And Purdue is a team that is more than capable of beating any team they could possibly play. But Purdue is a team that I will absolutely not pick to win the national championship, not because of why you might think, but simply, and I've said this to you yesterday, I think, and previously, because in researching a question or a comment that I got earlier in the week, I realized, going back and looking at the last 5 national champions, they had a minimum of 4 NBA draft picks on those teams. That's not coincidence. That's showing these teams have elite talent. It's not an accident. And I don't think that it is an accident when you get to those certain positions. Now, UConn, being that they're going to be potentially back-to-back participants in the Final Four, I don't know that. But that's going to cause me some additional research this year of who I think can really win the national championship this season. Now, does that mean it has to be that way? No. But numbers don't lie. I mean, if things happen on a continuous basis based on certain metrics, certain numbers, there's generally a reason for that. If you don't shoot free throws very well, don't shoot three-pointers very well, you give up three-pointers horribly, you're probably not going to be a very good team. Numbers bear that out. And I can't wait. And speaking of which, yes, we will have another iteration of the Indiana Sports Beat Radio's NCAA tournament pool. Pete will have that up and running soon. Looking forward to that. Time to take another break. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us in the next hour, along with Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. Plenty to talk about along the lines of college basketball right now. And again, I mentioned this earlier, the NCAA Committee on Infractions exploring changes to possibly penalize athletics directors, presidents, school presidents. Can you imagine that? We'll talk about that and much more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, where you can find the best of meats, including Voiles Family Wagyu beef raised locally. right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Zach just told me he'll be joining from his car, I believe, so he might not have his camera on today.
From the comfy confines of, yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Yep, I agree with you. Sam, I agree with you. That's pretty good. Pretty funny. Hello, Dana. Appreciate you joining us today. Going through the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Yeah, there's truth to that, Christopher. Talk the talk, but they got to walk the walk. John joining us from WKRP in Cincinnati. All righty.
All right, here we go.
Shore Construction, now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore, RE/MAX Realty. For those of you in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl, and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Curious as whether or not was the Indiana men's basketball team at that game last night. I ask only because, back in the day, there would be great support shown by the various programs. Not sure that happens anymore. Was the men's team there? I know that Woody, I've not heard anything about Mike Woodson being there, so I'm assuming that wasn't the case. A little surprising in a game that has that much atmosphere, but again, then maybe you felt like they're opening themselves up to comments like the fact that the women drew more last night than the men did the night before to Simon Scott Assembly Hall, which is a fact. took a picture of the balcony in the Nebraska game with about 3 minutes before tip. So it wasn't, the game had not started just yet. It was 3 minutes prior to, but it was pretty much empty. And that's the telltale signs. When you start seeing the balconies empty, then the next thing is the corners, the upper corners of the main areas become empty. That's when, you know, the people are starting to make their feelings known. But yeah, it just, to me, it's a disconnect when you don't have that symbiotic support from each other. But maybe it's a feeling of, hey, we've got enough going on. We don't need to add that to the plate. Whatever, but it's surprising. Not just because that used to be the case. But of course, the women's program used to not be more successful than the men's program. That's also something different from the past. I don't think that there's going to be, I've said it over and over and over, there will not be any changes for the men's program this year. I would be utterly shocked. So that's not even really a discussion that I think is worth having. You may want there to be, but that's not going to happen. But Indiana, and it's not just Indiana, the Big Ten, but Indiana is the leader of that group that is not performing. They're not doing the things they need to do. They're not being who they need to be. And there has to be serious discussions about that. There's so much more to it than just winning a banner or winning this. It's what it means for a program, for student, for pulling in more students. I'm wondering if making money has become too easy for certain schools. Say like Indiana, they're a part of the Big Ten. They're going to get their money regardless. Now, yes, there are ways that they make money outside of the Big Ten. Attendance, all those things, merchandising sales. But is it too easy because they're handed money by the Big Ten? That overwhelming desire to be the best, not quite as overwhelming as it once was. Because, we're going to get a check regardless. I just wonder if that is a possibility, because there's a reason for everything. Actions, reactions, and there has to be, you have to find where that problem lies. Something so simple as free throw shooting, for example. I was thinking about this last night. And I'll use Terry Bourne as an example. If her team was the 326th worst shooting free throw team in the country, I'm fairly certain there would be something done about it besides wishing there was a magic potion for her to give her players. And to me, that's where the disconnect is. There are things that can be done. I'm not saying I have the answers, but I am saying I would certainly be searching for them, seeking them out. Has anything been done differently? No, and I'm not talking, it could be a number of different things, but we'll get back to that later. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us now. Zach, how are you, sir?
Hey, sorry about that. I was having trouble getting the link to load.
No problem. No problem. I was talking about all kinds of things. Last night, a huge night in Bloomington for the Indiana women, of course. They get a big win over Iowa on a big stage. A national stage in which everyone's watching. You got Caitlin Clark and that train coming through, and Indiana comes through in a big way. That means a lot for that program going forward in this season and seasons to come.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it at least kind of maybe gives them a chance of cracking the door back open to getting in the regular season title race. They're going to need some help. But, it's at very least, I think, probably, I don't want to say cements them. But, I think Indiana, with some of the losses that they've had, obviously they don't have many losses, but the losses that they've had, there's kind of been this question, are they in that top 4 seed group? Is that the bucket they belong in terms of resume, in terms of, kind of NCAA tournament seeding? Because, of course, if you get that, then you host that first weekend as opposed to having to go on the road. And I don't think necessarily that, the whole sort of thing is signed and sealed now, but that's the kind of signature win, especially late in the season when you're really kind of putting the finishing touches on a resume that probably, I suspect may well be what kind of puts you over the top if you're Indiana in terms of hosting. It obviously puts you in not that you aren't already, but it puts you in good position in terms of Big Ten tournament seeding and giving you opportunities there. And it's just, let's be fair. This team has had a couple ugly losses, including one to Iowa. They had obviously the one very early in the season to Stanford, one that maybe, the final score wasn't quite reflective of the game in Illinois. Illinois led for a lot of that game, but I don't think Indiana was necessarily, losing by 20 points for a lot of that game. But it, just to kind of buttress that and post that kind of win, the way that they did, they weren't hanging on. They were the better team. They were, clearly kind of in front, pretty much the entire second half, going into halftime and then through the second half. They did a great job on Caitlin Clark defensively, and they earned their result. And it's going to be one that I suspect is going to carry them pretty comfortably here into the last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, and more importantly for the Indiana women's program is staying in that top 16 of the NCAA seedings so they can potentially host some games in Bloomington.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think, they are right in that mix of teams that, at least at the moment anyway, seem like they're going to kind of be either maybe a 4 or a 5. And you start to ask what separates a team in that group, what gets them into that top 4 seed bucket. It's a win like that, and I'm sure it wouldn't hurt if Indiana could add a couple more, if they could go to the conference tournament and, maybe claim one more scalp, that kind of thing. But that's the sort of win that, not just because you have it and maybe other people don't, but because, you don't get an opportunity to play a top 5 team every week. And when you get those opportunities, you have to seize them. Obviously, it was a great chance for Indiana. They had a sold-out crowd, and with all respect to Caitlin Clark, she's a remarkable player. Somebody kind of said to me a few weeks ago in a radio interview or something, they said, that game sold out, or Indiana fans kind of excited to see Caitlin Clark. And I said, listen, there's a healthy respect for Caitlin Clark in Bloomington, but Indiana fans are showing up to watch Indiana win the game. They're, this is not one of those where half the arena is kind of there for the phenomenon or the experience. I mean, that's going to be a stadium that is full of people willing Caitlin Clark to lose. And so, when you have that environment, when you have that opportunity, and, I know the committee says all wins count the same and all that, but there's undeniably something a little bit different, momentum-wise, if nothing else, about a win like that at this time of year specifically. You just can't pass up that opportunity, and obviously Indiana didn't.
I agree. On the men's side, not just Indiana, but the Big Ten Conference has really fallen away as a conference. I'm I'm thinking that there's probably going to be 6 teams that make the tournament this year. And you can look around other leagues like the SEC has really come on. The Big 12 is probably going to potentially put 10 teams in. The Big 10 has really fallen off as overall as a conference on the basketball side of things. And we're talking teams like Michigan and Maryland, in addition to Indiana, that are I don't know if it's had they not reacted well to the portal, because both Michigan and Indiana are not teams that suffer NIL wise. What is your thoughts on why that is?
Well, I'm not totally sure Juwan Howard would agree with you that Michigan doesn't suffer NIL wise, but that's kind of a separate conversation. I don't really think one data point makes a trend. I think if I'm not mistaken, the Big Ten had 8 teams in the tournament last year. There have been seasons in recent years. I'm just talking the last 4 or 5 years when the Big Ten has put 10 teams in. I'd have to go back and look, but if memory serves, the year that COVID shut the tournament down, there was a chance that 11 teams were going to get in. That was only 4 years ago. I think it's and listen. Since I've joined this beat, I've seen seasons when the Big Ten only put 4 teams in the tournament. It happens every once in a while, and I think that when you're maybe the ACC and you've had 2 or 3 years now of kind of sustained sort of lack of success, and in particular, the middle of that conference really just hasn't been able to figure it out. The Louisvilles, the Georgia Techs, the Pitts, the Syracuses, the programs that you feel like behind Duke and UNC, should be kind of in that sort of mix, just haven't really been able to find it the last 4 or 5 years. But I think the Big Ten is probably more just in a place where they're probably, I think you're right, they're probably going to get 6 in: Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Nebraska. I don't know what Northwestern did last night.
They won.
They beat Michigan, because I saw they were down early, and I was packing and getting other stuff done. And but as long as kind of they just kind of keep adding enough that you can kind of make the committee forget about that Chicago State loss back in the non-conference. I think Northwestern will get in, and I think they deserve to be in. But then I think you kind of look at it, and essentially what it feels like happened to the league this season is you had just a bunch of teams that basically all fell on the wrong side of the variance model. So, Maryland, Indiana, I'd probably classify Ohio State in this to some extent. They're a bit on the extreme, but that's also because of the coaching situation and the way maybe things had kind of turned on Chris Holtman in Columbus. I think Iowa probably fits this. Michigan a little bit less so, but just teams where you kind of looked at it and you said, hey, on balance, these are teams with enough talent to make the tournament and enough opportunities in the non-conference to build a resume. And, if the law of averages just kind of comes out to some sort of coin toss or a 50-50 split, a couple of them will make it, a couple of them will miss it, and then it's just another 7-8 teams in the tournament, kind of another, just another kind of standard year for the Big Ten. And ultimately, I think, essentially you kind of went 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 in the Big Ten on those 4 or 5 teams that felt like they were right on the cut line when the season started. And, if we ran 1,000 simulations of this season, probably the majority of them, at least a couple of those teams, would have better years. They didn't. It happens. But I don't think necessarily the Big Ten is I don't think one season marks a trend. I think the Big Ten is kind of in a place where basically it got the minimum number you would have expected in position to get in. And then there's just kind of, you would have thought 2 or 3 of those 4 or 5 would do enough, and ultimately none of them have.
Absolutely. What is Indiana's realistic goals for the rest of this season, do you think, or should they be to finish this season out?
It's tough. I mean, listen, it's difficult when you are a program where everybody justifiably talks about, things like the NCAA tournament as, sort of the minimum requirement, a top 5 finish in the conference, a minimum requirement. You've obviously got experienced players like Trey Galloway and Xavier Johnson that have been to the tournament, that have been on top 4 teams in the league, that have, even been maybe on the periphery of a Big Ten title race, or, you look at these last couple seasons, Indiana's been in the Big Ten tournament semifinals. So, guys that have been in these positions where they're allowed to kind of, dream relatively big dreams, and picking up an experienced guy like that, even, you want to look at him and say, hey, you're the senior, you've been around, you've had the most, sort of experience, you've got to lead, but you've also got to, they're still 21, 22-year-old, college students. You've still got to sort of pull them through that a little bit when they struggle. And then you got a lot of young guys that just maybe, haven't experienced a lot of, failure in their careers. And I don't think it's just, people always say, is it because they're all in prep school or whatever? I mean, listen to games because, they're the reason their teams win a lot of games. Gabe Cupps didn't go to a prep school. He went to, high school. He played for his dad. He won a state title. But what happens is you get to college, and this is maybe the first time guys have really struggled at this level, or to this degree competitively like this. And it can be hard to kind of keep everybody's head together when you get to a point in the season where everybody can look around and, if they're honest with themselves, can say, there's probably not a lot left in this season for us. Yes, we could rally together. We could go to the NIT. Obviously, you can have a kind of catch fire in the Big Ten tournament, and that happens once in a generation where a team kind of comes out of nowhere to win it. But I just think that, it is, this is the kind of like challenge that, players don't confront very often. Players of this caliber don't confront very often because they're normally good enough and their teammates are normally good enough that they don't have to. And it's, when you say what's Indiana playing for this season, I mean, you want to say things like pride, and I understand that. But there's also, I think, there's an extent to which it's almost kind of the individual sort of motivations of like, hey, what do you still want out of this season as an individual? How can you go get it, and how can that contribute to the collective success? Because it is, I don't think there's any sugarcoating. It is tough to kind of keep a group of guys who are ultimately in, real life terms. I know that they're technically adults, but in real life terms, they're not that old. And by just the nature of their skills and their previous success, a lot of them probably haven't gone through a ton of experiences like this in basketball, and they're all sort of trying to figure it out for the first time. And it's difficult, and there's a lot of frustration around them. And, every time they go into social media, they can see it, they can read it, they can feel it. It's just, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't have a great answer for it. Forgive me.
No worries. With Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Appreciate you as always, my friend. I hope you have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Sorry I was a little late logging in.
Never a problem. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and staying up on his content. We've got more coming up. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload joins us next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with that right after this break.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly. Good day, sir.
What's up, gentlemen?
Oh, just living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue helped me win some money last night, Casey.
At a baby. Did you pick the line?
I just figured they would. Wait, what did you ask? I misunderstood what you said.
Oh, you took them at 15.5?
I think it was 14.5 whenever I
nice.
got in on it, but
14.
They helped me with the parlay.
That was chicken change, man.
That's what I said. I'm like, man, they're coming off a loss. They're liable to beat Rutgers by 30.
I didn't feel great about it until I heard that Mag was out, because he's given Purdue a lot of trouble because he's just huge on the wing. Obviously, that was the right call.
You make the call.
I jumped on Edie at 20.5 over.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to hit too. I feel like he's guaranteed 20 almost every game.
Right.
It's not like a massive game, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, Well, if he's hitting free throws, for sure. Yeah. Apparently, he's Ray Allen again.
Ray Allen. Haven't heard that name for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only quiet one out of that Boston group.
Mick Foley was at
what?
At the game last night.
Why? Was he doing a show?
Apparently he was born in Bloomington, but
Born
did not know.
Yeah, born or born?
Born, and
It's not
along with David Lee Roth, which that one I did know.
I did not know Mick Foley was from Indiana.
I didn't either. I didn't know any of that, but someone said he was wearing an Iowa shirt on top of that. So who knows? I don't know. I just think it's funny.
Seem like a sports guy.
Oh, he's a funny dude.
Oh no, he's hilarious. Yeah,
Chris Tucker being at the Indiana game a couple days ago was also.
Yeah, Chris Tucker was at the last.
Yeah,
he grabbed one of the flags and was running around with the flag, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Born in Bloomington, 1965.
Huh. Crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, guys.
Have family here. Of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. It is time for the weekend. We were chatting in the break about Mick Foley being in the game last night, but apparently, although he was born in Bloomington, like David Lee Roth, they moved very young, but apparently he's a fan of Caitlin Clark, which I'm looking at a picture of him wearing a Caitlin Clark shirt on here. So there's that. So unfortunately, he did not have a happy night last night.
I'd say shame on you, you making Mankind sad.
I know, Mankind, Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, and I'm missing one. There was one more. Dude Love. There we go.
Dude Love.
I don't know if anyone's ever encompassed as many characters as he has.
Certainly not in one night. I believe he did all three in one Royal Rumble.
Did he really?
Yes. Kept coming back out. Yeah.
Hey, that's a smart way to keep stay in the ring, man.
I'd ask for smart 3 paychecks too.
Didn't think about that. Purdue get back on the winning ways last night with a beatdown of Rutgers up in West Lafayette. And boy, they got a big helping from Illinois with that loss that they took. I was looking forward to there being, at least a shot at there being a chance for a title fight here. But man, Illinois really just kind of gave their shot away, I think.
Yeah, it's a collapse that I would dare say Purdue is kind of more known for. That's kind of their shtick, and it does seem the narrative's a little nicer to Illinois because losing an 8-point lead in less than a minute, I think, of actual game clock. That is, you kind of have to try to do that.
They were up 7 with 36 seconds to go. I was at the Indiana-Nebraska game, so I'm like, all right, I gotta turn away from that. That game's over, and I just happened to see the score later. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How in the hell? So yeah, just when you think it's not possible, it's possible. Now, so I try to answer all the comments from our YouTube listeners, and there was one about Purdue from a Purdue fan, and I said, here's why I had to do some research, and the last 5 NCAA tournament champion teams had a minimum, and I'm not saying you have to have this amount, but they all just happen to have 4 NBA draft picks on those teams. And that is why I will not pick Purdue to win a national championship this year. And someone pointed out that the last time any team won a national championship without at least one NBA draft pick on it, which they do have that, was Indiana back in 87. But I don't know that they have enough what I call elite talent to win the national championship, although they have the talent to beat any team that they will play, if this makes sense. There's not a team that they can't beat in the country. Not a team. I would give anybody that. There is no team that Purdue cannot beat. At the same time, I don't know that they can stack those wins up back to back. And this is not about being anti-Purdue or whatever. I'm just looking at it from a numbers standpoint, because Purdue is so freaking dominant at times that there was no way that a normal person would say they're not going to win it. But I just looking at the numbers standpoint, I know Purdue fans are not going to want to look at it that way, but that is a real thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm buying that as a reason to cancel them. It's first of all, college basketball comes down to the same like 5 or 6 coaches winning a title every year almost. There's almost no college parity. So if you want to look at it that way, sure, but it's always the same program, same coaches. But there are teams that get to the championship game that get
unless
into
you're
the
at
Final
UConn,
Four. Right? But I mean, UConn is one of the blue bloods, right? Like they are one of the up there programs. They win a national title every 7 or 8 years. They just happen to do it.
Over the last 25 years, they have.
Right. They just do it with different coaches, which is definitely unique to the college basketball landscape. But like that's almost the closest thing to parity. But I mean, you see teams that make it to the finals, Final Four, and once you get there, I think Purdue has, when you have 2 Naismith finalists, and it's your point guard and your center, all of a sudden, I think what we saw at Rutgers, particularly, and what's a good sign and what Purdue is going to need, they just need a little bit of help around them. You know, obviously, Camden Heide has a huge game. Mason Gillis played well. Trey Kaufman-Wren played well. Lance Jones played well. I get the concern when it comes to elite athleticism and NBA, but I also think college basketball is kind of changing anyway. When you look at a lot of the great teams, it's really not athleticism or NBA talent that's leading the way. UConn has an edge there probably, but a lot of those teams, like Purdue's already handled all the other contenders at this point in the season for the most part. They've wiped out Marquette, Arizona, and those guys definitely have NBA bodies. But I think when you have a point guard as good as Braden Smith, when you do have some help athletically like Lance Jones, I think it covers that gap more than Purdue teams in the past.
Yeah, I don't worry. I will get slammed by Purdue fans. I can say 1,000 good things about Purdue, and the one thing that they perceive as negative, they will just jump all over me.
I mean, it's a national or a natural emotional reaction to this.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, without question. The one thing that Purdue has done in a positive thing is, first of all, the addition of Lance Jones. And the emergence of Cam Heide. Now, what that gives them that they did not have last year are 2 more options,
right?
For if and when Smith and Lawyer are not on doing what they need to do. And Lawyer has kind of been I hate to use the word worst, but least productive of that group, I guess you'd say, here of late. Smith has been much more consistent. Lawyer has really been kind of up and down. But when you have guys like Lance Jones and Cam Heide that, like last night, where the hell did he come from? Heide is like the Heide Bowl. You have, because you've got Mount Edie that is just always going to be Mount Edie. that's not changing. And for that reason, it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, and I don't mean to be. Purdue is much more favorable because of having those additional options, and which will make them much more formidable for a team to take out.
Yeah,
but obviously they can be taken out.
Yeah, if you're talking about in the sense of like upsetting athleticism or teams with more talent, what do you look at? You look at 3-point shooting. This year's team is the number 1 team in the country now, 40%, has shot 40% all season. That's been a pretty consistent track. Last year's team couldn't shoot the ball. And then also when you're talking about Camden Heide, Miles Colvin, Ethan Morton off the bench, those are all 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", good athletes coming off the bench. That allows Purdue to be more versatile and to match up better against teams on the wing, against problem guys. Like, these are options that we don't normally associate with Purdue. And so it makes sense that it's not quite caught up, that this team it's not like Purdue teams past. They have length, they have athleticism, they're shooting the ball well. They've got a lot of guys that are shooting the ball well. And like, we're almost 30 games into the season. Like, that 40% mark isn't lucky. It's not a hot shooting night. It is a continuous thing at this point. And when you can shoot that well, and then you have a generational guy inside, like, it's hard for me to imagine Purdue like not thriving. At the same time, Purdue, I mean, when you lose as a number 1 seed to a 16, you kind of admit that your numbers don't matter. It's like a feel thing, like, because like there's no way that Purdue should have lost last season. But you can talk yourself into freshman guards, a lot of issues, didn't shoot the ball well. So have they fixed those? Are those going to stay fixed under the bright lights? It's not really something you can like talk your way out of. There's no comeback for it because Purdue's not done it in March. But I do think this team is built in a way that they haven't been in prior Painter iterations.
Yeah, and like I said, the addition of Lance Jones, because he's not a freshman addition.
Correct. Yeah.
The only transfer, and a great one to add because he was not somebody that came in highly decorated.
Mm-hmm.
Most people and most Purdue fans had no idea who the hell Lance Jones was, much less anybody else, is my point there. But yet he has fit perfectly into what they have going on. He is seamlessly fit into fill gaps, basically, the gaps that Purdue had, and that's what we're talking about. They had big gaps between the consistency and the inconsistency of the guards, and filling that, him and Heide have gone a long way in filling those gaps.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because Lance Jones, like, he is undeniable in a way that Purdue guards are not normally. He's so fast. He gets easy looks. He's so physical. And, you know, his play to start the year was a little inconsistent. But now you're looking at his last 6 games. He's put 17, 13, 12, 7, 20, 26 up. His last bad scoring game was Rutgers when he had 8 assists and 10 rebounds with 5 steals. Like, he is playing the best basketball of his career. He's doing things for Purdue that just give them easy looks and easy things that were not available last year. And it really could not be a better story. And he could not have been a better fit for this squad. And it's something that Painter deserves a lot more credit than he gets, because I think there was a lot of talk in the offseason. Local media, national media. Did Painter do enough? Where's the guard that they needed? Like who's this Southern Illinois guy? And turns out he was everything they could have wanted.
This season I think it's going to be just as fun, the tournament, as last year, if maybe not better. It's hard to say that.
That was
well, I don't mean from a fan standpoint. I mean from an overall fan standpoint. It certainly was. The teams that are at the top have all been destroyed at one time or another. Houston, Kansas just wiped the floor with them. Last night, Arizona at home loses to Washington State, loses the Pac-12 championship, no less, to a Washington State team. The Big Ten as a conference has sucked.
Garbage.
Well,
it's garbage.
They should never be at this position. in my opinion. You've got 14 programs, and you should never be at a place to where it's not quite 33 or third, but they should always be 8 deep, 8, 9 deep, always. And that's not been the case. And the Big Ten has fallen behind, I think, because of their style of play. It doesn't really change. You look at the SEC, sometimes some would think a little more exciting brand of basketball. Alabama getting up down the floor, which Iowa tries that, but they don't play any defense whatsoever. But the Big Ten has got to get itself together as a basketball conference.
Yeah, it lacks some top end elite athleticism. Some of the schools, like the SEC, is kind of testing this theory, but it is hard to have a good. I think Ohio State struggles from this. Have a good basketball program when it's not your priority in the athletic department. I think that's the one leg up.
What about what it is, and you don't have a good one?
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts more.
No,
yeah.
I mean, no names, no names. But yeah,
when you don't have football to lean back on, it definitely leaves a little sour taste in your mouth. But yeah, there's a lack of elite top end talent in the Big Ten too when it just comes to recruiting. The ones that do come to, like Xavier Booker was supposed to be a 5-star, and he doesn't see the court for Michigan State.
Yeah, he really. But of course, Tom Izzo knows what he's doing. He is not.
Does he?
Wrong, but well, it's not that he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, like,
I think he knows what he's doing in 1994.
Well, what's he doing differently that they're not doing now?
I mean, this year it has no big men, just incompetent big men. That roster construction is not good. You lose someone like Joey Hauser and you don't replace him with any kind of shooting or versatility on the wing, and then you just don't have big men in a conference where you need big men. It could be again where Michigan State looks better in the NCAA tournament than they did all season. They kind of did that last year.
Do coaches rely too much on recruiting rankings and all of this stuff? Because I'm starting to wonder.
They do, yes.
If that is seriously, instead of actually being able to discern potential talent and have the ability to develop said talent, I don't know it's the same as what it used to be.
Yeah, so Xavier Booker is a good example because he's a 5-star. Painter recruited him, but I've been told by multiple, but he had no interest in him coming to campus. Like, he did not want him on that Purdue team. It's just you have to, if you have a 5-star in your backyard, you have to recruit them to some level. But I think it's recognizing you've got to find not just your system, but just guys that can blend in that you know is going to work. I think recruiting's always been wishy-washy when you get past like the top 30 guys. Like, there's not a huge difference from like 50 to 200. It's just, are they going to grow a little? Are they the right temperament? Are they going to go into a good program? And then are you playing a system that works out for them to get playing time for them? It's complicated. And then, but like with the way the AAU circuit's gone and everything has changed, like guys can kind of coast in high school in a weird way on their reputation early. Then they're on all these high teams and they're on these Adidas circuits and yada, yada, yada. So like, I think 4 and 5-star stuff can mean a little less than it did.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about this weekend. There's some great games to look at this weekend coming up in the college world. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload is with us right now. We're back with more, brought to you by our good friends down in Clarksville. Bubba's 33, right off of I-65. Pizza, burgers, beer. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the
Oh, Houston and Baylor.
Kentucky, Alabama. Houston is not. Yeah, I don't know that they make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, their offense isn't great.
No. Alabama's going to be my dark horse.
Fun fact, the only thing that Alabama has going for them is how well they've done in conference play. Their out of conference was horrid. In terms of when they played good teams, they lost.
Yeah, they played really well against Purdue.
That was also a long time ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I still just the numbers give Alabama a lot of credit for losing to good teams. They didn't beat any of the good ones except for the ones in their conference.
So their bigs are just like boneheaded morons. like just attitude issues.
Well, they're a run. They're an up and down the floor team. They're more of a 3-pointing sheet team.
Yeah, but if you just have guys that are like,
that's what they're lacking.
They have to play. Yeah, they have to play, and they're just total negatives, and that's hard to overcome.
I'd bet Kentucky to beat them this weekend, just because anytime Kentucky plays a team that likes to play their style, they beat them. Even if they may have the better and Kentucky does have the better personnel than Alabama, even though they haven't shown it. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat them.
Awesome, but the rest of the team lacks some stuff. It is a lot of games. Plus, Purdue gets to go to Michigan this weekend.
Ooh, Texas!
I cannot believe how bad Michigan is. Is there a world where they don't get rid of Juwan Howard at the end of the season?
The only reason I say I guess is because how is he not fired already?
I mean, I guess just being nice. He's an alum. I mean, look at Louisville and Kenny Payne. I think they're kind of in the same situation.
Well, to say, I don't know why did Ohio State fire Chris Holtmann now? They're not gaining anything. You're not hiring a coach until after the season's over.
Apparently, they've already got Sean Miller in their back pocket, though.
I don't think it was like it just wasn't working with Holtmann.
Here we go. 10 seconds.
Steakhouse, Chop Shop, Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. As we're getting ready for the weekend, that means lots of games to take in. Indiana traveling on the road to Penn State as they go to State College to take on a Nittany Lions team that put it on them in Bloomington. And Penn State really not much to play for at 13-14. They're just playing for pride. Both teams, I guess you could put it in that bucket. Alabama travels to Lexington to take on Kentucky. That will be a fun game to watch. You've got Houston going to Baylor. Another game this weekend to watch. Vanderbilt 7-19, so they're not much as they travel to Florida, but plenty of fun games to watch on Saturday. Those are just Saturday games. Arizona hosting Washington. Duke goes to Wake Forest. BYU at Kansas State. So plenty of basketball this weekend. And, of course, on Sunday, you've got more games coming up with Purdue. Click over there. I just saw it. Purdue travels to Michigan, so there's an easy win for the Boilermakers. Creighton goes to St. John's. See if they can piss off Rick Pitino. That will be fun. Let's see. SMU in South Florida. Maryland at Rutgers. Nothing big there to really talk about. Let's see. Am I missing anything? But what's the game you're looking forward to this weekend?
I'm sneaky looking at that Duke Wake Forest game. I think that's a challenge on the road. I think Wake Forest has a couple guys. Duke's been playing really well. If you're talking about teams that might make a run for that third or fourth 1 seed, I think they're up there. And then obviously Houston going to Baylor. Is Houston real? If they win that game, it's probably hard to argue they don't belong next to UConn and Purdue. If they lose that game, we're talking about the top 2 seeds probably having the number 1 seed locked up in February. Because besides Houston, there's no one challenging for those top 2 spots.
How about Alabama at Kentucky?
It's going to be a messy, fast-paced, crazy basketball game. That's 100% for sure.
That should be something fun to watch without question, for sure. The Big Ten preparing for the tournament that will be up in Minneapolis, Minnesota a couple of weeks from now. That gets underway. And no one's really excited about going to Minneapolis in the early parts. Let's be honest.
It's such a nightmare.
It's gee whiz. The gift that keeps giving from Kevin Warren. He's been out of the conference for a year and he still continues to impact. Now the Chicago Bears fans get to enjoy that, and which they are with the fact that the Chicago's not kind of tipping their hand on what they're going to do with their quarterback situation.
Right. Yeah, just keep calling Carolina for good trades every year or two, and you'll be just fine.
Looking forward to that. The Big Ten also, as far as success in this NCAA tournament this year, besides Purdue, Northwestern maybe, but not. I don't.
The Tyberry injury is so sad.
Yeah, it's because that to me they were a sneaky,
correct
Final Four potential sneaky because. Anybody that has great guard play, and when you have 4 freaking guards that average double figures and shoot like they do, you got really good guard play. But yeah,
aggressive. But yeah, that there's not many better backcourts than Boo Boo and Tyberry, and they make shots and they make high pressured shots. So now it just seems fitting for the Big Ten this year because it's what Nebraska probably has to take that role as Northwestern. They've got some guys.
Oh no, I would still take Northwestern over Nebraska. Nebraska is so bad away from home. They're 8-0 at home, but their only win on the road in the conference is in Bloomington. That's just happened the other day. So they're not too good away from Lincoln.
Neutral floors are always a little different, not quite as hostile as road games, but it's a bleak. Like, I guess you're putting a lot on an Illinois team that has shown an inability to finish in any regard. I still find myself having trouble trusting in Coleman Hawkins. Brad Underwood squads tend to not finish well. It's not that long ago that they just got knocked out as a 1 seed pretty early, 1 or 2 seed, whatever it was, early in the tournament. Wisconsin looks like garbage. There's a lot of broken squads in the Big Ten.
A lot of broken dreams. Broken dreams, baby. Something completely different topic. I touched on this earlier. It came out that the NCAA Committee on Infractions has begun exploring legislation adopted last month that will directly penalize non-coaching staff members who are at the center of an NCAA enforcement action. That includes the university presidents. Can you imagine a situation where a president what do you do? What do you suspend them from? I mean, I don't know what the hell you could actually do to a president of a school, but just the sheer fact that it's like, wait a minute, you guys are really, you struggle with every single facet of life, it seems like, and now this is your answer, which I don't disagree with. People need to be held accountable, but how are you going to hold somebody accountable who doesn't have a damn thing to do with that situation?
So they're going to suspend NCAA presidents for bringing cookies to players? Is that what I understand?
Who knows? Who knows? Very, very possible.
I believe they just came out with some rules that you're not allowed to bring food or decorate hotels anymore for recruits. You have to meet in the lobby.
Oh, because that does, those decorations, you the right crepe paper.
Yep.
That's the difference maker. That's the difference maker.
Well, back in the
And
day,
that's
you
the thing.
decorated with a few Benjamins on the wall just to make it a little better.
Yes.
Somewhere
and
homely.
see, that's the ridiculous stupidity of things like that is ridiculous and stupid. And it's like, why are you wasting everyone's time with that?
Is there a much worse ran organization than the NCAA?
Nope.
But
that's nothing we haven't known for a long time.
I know. It's like there's going
Speaking
to be
of accountability, who the hell holds the NCAA accountable?
Well, that's kind of the thing. It's not really the media narrative yet, but like these big conferences talking to each other. Why do they want to keep the NCAA around?
Yeah, the presidents are the bosses of the NCAA.
Right. Correct.
So that's kind of funny. That would be like if the company that I own censors me. How are you going to censor me? I own you.
Yeah. Presidents answer to like state governors and board of trustees. It is wild the things the NCAA is willing to touch and the stuff that they just let go. I mean, like NIL just ran by them and they said, we're helpless. But now we're going to get in the president hosting game.
Another issue that came up this week, it cracked me up that back when college football was a 2-team race. We can't change that for 10 years. That can't be changed for 10 years. Then it went to the four teams. Oh, that can't be changed for 10 years. We can't change that for 10 years. Now go to 12. I don't know. Let's go to 14. Maybe 16. Who knows? Let's just make it up as we go along. Now, all of a sudden, these decisions that couldn't be changed for decades at a time can just be changed at the drop of a hat, especially now that the Big Ten and the SEC have gotten involved and requesting more guaranteed positions in the college football playoffs, which I find is a joke because if you're as good as those two conferences are, how could you never not have 2 teams out of that number of teams in?
I mean, you're still going to ask for the guarantee. It's just if you're in the position to demand that, you're going to demand it. It seems counterintuitive to a sport that's biggest problem appears to be that the players don't want to play in the meaningless games late, and the solution has been to add more games. That doesn't seem like it's going to fix things. And we already have too many bowl games. And now the bowl games are going to be even more superfluous. College football is a weird
How does some
thing.
of those bowl games hang on? How does the Quick Lane Bowl hang on? How does, all those Foster Farms bowls, the ones that are really at the bottom that nobody really cares about?
Honestly, it's rich people with an ego that want to go have a bowl game and a bunch of suites and go talk to a bunch of athletes for a whole week.
Yeah, being a part of the committees
Mhm.
and all of that in there, and not there is something to the side of it of trying to be philanthropic in their communities. I get that, but I don't know how are you really making money if nobody cares and nobody goes?
Edible mascots.
Good point. But that means they all have to be cheese or Pop-Tarts.
It's going to get real weird. Like the bowl games are just getting like mayo. Mayo kind of started this. Mayonnaise. Like mayonnaise was able to talk a coach into being willing to be dumped on top of him.
Yeah, how many
What is
coaches
the
that
limit?
make the money they make would
Right.
allow somebody to dump a jug of mayonnaise? I like mayonnaise, but I don't want to have a gallon of it or a cooler of it dumped on my head.
Can we get St. John's to play in a mayo game so we can dump some mayo on Rick Pitino?
I don't think that'll happen. Unfortunately, he's out. He said, I'm out. Make sure you're giving Casey Bartley a follow, especially if you're a Purdue fan. Keep up with all the Purdue activity. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good one.
You as well, brother. Have a great weekend. And big thanks to Tyler Harris, of course, as well, from HoosiersForGood.org, and as well as HoosiersConnect.com, Indiana's official NIL collective. You can go there for more information on their vodka that's coming out. Very kind of unique, not one of a kind, but very unique in that situation. And of course, thanks to Casey Bartley, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines as always. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. I cannot thank you enough. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you again, I believe, after the Indiana Penn State game on Saturday. So until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Have yourselves a great weekend. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.